This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
What should we be doing as women who are, we're in our 40s and we still want to look 25? And we do, I feel. I mean, I think so many of us are embracing, I hate calling it aging, but it's a living and making sure to accentuate our assets. So yeah, what is your tips for this demo of ours?
So my personal 2024 goal is to fix my sleep. From an Ayurvedic perspective, sleep is considered the mother goddess because of her ability to renew and restore. But if you think about the source of skincare issues, if you feel like your skin again is just looking dull, if you feel like you're looking tired, sleep is the first thing to get you there. Sleep is I kind of now in my 40s, I'm in my later 40s, so I consider now both my skincare and my healthcare to also be about longevity and quality of life. And so I feel like those are the things that I'm thinking about right now, which is how do I, get myself to live as long as I can, but with the best quality of life. And all the research, everything starts with good sleep and good gut health. Anytime your gut is off, it'll show itself on your skin.
There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our Mom Sense and Dad Sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode.
Ayurveda is a natural system of medicine originated from my homeland and the homeland of my guest today more than 3,000 years ago. The term Ayurveda is derived from the Sanskrit words Ayur, which means life, and Veda, which is the science or knowledge of. And so it translates to the knowledge of life. Today, my guest is someone who's lived by these principles of Ayurveda and launched a skincare line rooted in its essence. Lisa Mattam is founder and CEO of Sahajan, a leading Ayurvedic clean beauty brand clinically proven to deliver results. Founded in 2015, the brand is a global force. It's the skincare brand of choice at the St. Regis, the Ritz, JW Marriott, and W Hotels, placing it in 400 properties and 200,000 luxury hotel rooms worldwide. Under Lisa's leadership, Sahajan has repeatedly been recognized for its excellence, most recently receiving awards like the 2023 Cosmopolitan Clean Beauty Award and the 2023 Oprah Daily Editor's Choice Award. Both Lisa and Sahajan have become media fixtures and have been featured in Forbes, Vogue, WWD, Popsugar, Glamour, Elle Magazine, BuzzFeed, and more. Lisa spent a decade working in pharmaceuticals prior to launching the line, and she's settled in Toronto with her husband and 2 kids. Lisa, welcome to That's Total Mom Sense.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
This is going to be great. I can't wait to dive into so many topics. I want to start with the fact that we both hail from India, and that's where Ayurveda is from. So tell us a little bit about your connection to India.
So my parents are from Kerala, which is the southernmost state in India, which I now know, which I didn't know growing up, was the epicenter of Ayurveda. And
Yes.
so growing up, we never used the words actually around the house. It wasn't do this because it's Ayurvedic, do this because it's Ayurvedic. In fact, I thought most of those things were family tradition. But what I
Right.
realized, my parents, specifically being from Kerala, is that it was sort of immersed into their everyday living. And so when, we put turmeric on a pimple or when they oiled my hair or even some of the lifestyle practices that we engaged in really early on in our lives, these were Ayurvedic practices that my parents probably knowingly and then sometimes unknowingly just like weave through the fabric of the way they viewed our health and wellness. I also grew up in a house where my dad meditated and occasionally chanted and
Oh,
wrote journals and goals every morning. And I remember, when I was young and it wasn't cool to oil your hair and people weren't
yeah.
meditating in the classroom. I remember having a sleepover and saying like, can you just be like a normal dad and make pancakes and lighting candles and asking us to set intentions? Like
Right.
just
That's so cute though.
yeah. But now it's funny because I was laughing because, I was at my cousin's place the other day and she has a little one and he was telling us how they meditate every day in school. So we've come a long way.
And what drew you to pharma?
Pharma, probably like many South Asian kids, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. And
Yeah.
so, and I think I knew early on that that wasn't for me, but I still had a science degree, but I was far more interested in business. And so I had an MBA. And so it seemed like the right next step was to work in something that fused the two. And so I started my career in specialty biotech. So I worked, in Canada and in the US for a bit and then moved into J&J into their biotech division. And so it was really good. It was really good for me because I think it did do what I had intended, which was like marry both my interests, which was science and business. So having had a career in pharma and then in consulting really for me set the foundation for my entrepreneurial journey.
100%. And I think given that you started with just these Ayurvedic practices and home remedies, saw that, in pharma, and I guess if we kind of double click on skincare, what ingredients need to be in a product for it to be efficacious, you were able to be like, okay, these things we can do without. This is something we could substitute in that's natural and then have it actually work.
I knew I inherently believed in these Ayurvedic ingredients and the ingredients in which I was raised. But it was a turning point for me as a mom because what had happened was I was pregnant with my second and my daughter had been playing with my skincare and she had it like all over her face and her arms and like,
Oh,
the way that kids play with things. And I remember looking at her thinking like, oh, you're so cute. And like, like many frugal moms, I was like, you've probably wasted $1 million of skincare, but that's okay. Yeah.
right, right. I know.
I
Not my La
also,
Mer.
I know. I was like, I hadn't gotten there yet, but I definitely was
Yeah.
on the and so I was kind of like, you got to take that off your skin. I have no idea what the ingredients are going to do to your young, beautiful skin. And I
Yeah.
remember taking her to a room and saying, like, hey, if you want to play with these things, play with these things. And they were little bottles my parents had brought back on a recent trip from India. And
Mm,
so that was really the time where I thought, okay, if my skincare isn't good enough for her, then it probably isn't good enough for me. And if this
right.
is what on gut instinct I really believe in, I need to spend more time here. And then as I built on that, and so that's when I really started to understand that background in Ayurveda, that it was more than just family tradition. But I also thought, why had it taken me so long to get here? Like I've always been on this sort of, I'll call it continuum of wellness, like not would never espouse myself to be the healthiest person, but I was a fitness instructor when I was in grad school and was an early adopter to yoga. And I thought it took me a while to go clean with my skincare because when we buy skincare, we buy it because we want it to work. We buy
Hmm.
it, I have acne, I want to fix it. My skin is dry, I want to fix it. Or I absolutely love my skin and I want to preserve it, whatever.
Right.
But we buy it for the results. And I and nothing in clean at the time was really speaking to results. So I thought I could take this old world science in which I inherently believe, and I could use the rigor of my pharma background and create something that was, clinically relevant and could stand beside any conventional product.
I want to learn about your entrepreneurial spirit, because I feel like even that is something that we tend to question, second guess, and you left a cush, position to be like, nope, I'm going to launch a skincare brand.
When I left pharma, I actually went into consulting on my own. And so that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. And in a lot of ways, that felt like a big leap because I was on, that corporate path that people talk about. As a young person going through corporate, I was moving up the ladder, if you will, quite quickly. And so when I made the decision to pause or to stop or whatever it is and to go out on my own, it felt like a big one. I used to drive a company car, and you'll appreciate sort of the nuance of it, but I used to drive this like company BMW, which was like super cool. And then I had to give it all, and then I gave it up. And I remember my sister had to come to the office and pick me up because I had no car, and I had like a box with all my stuff in it. And it was, and luckily my sister drove me right downtown to like this kind of cool sushi bar in Toronto. And my girlfriend had put on this big party of like, you've quit your job. And, here's the next phase. Because if not, I probably would have like immediately sunk into like regret. But it was a really big step. And so I think, while I was consulting, I ended up growing a team and doing those things. But that taught me I could do it on my own. But doing that next one, which was starting the skincare company, I remember my husband's reaction actually, because I was pregnant. Like I was like 9 months. So it's funny because I remember sending in the incorporation details. And when we got it back, the actual incorporation date of the business is my son's, the day he was born. It just happened.
Oh my gosh.
I know, which is kind of, I think kismet. But yeah, I think so. But what's amazing is I remember my husband being like, again, like, we're good. And like, you make money again. And like, now we're going to have a second, like we have 2 kids and like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Luckily, he's an incredibly supportive person, or he just knows that he can't stop the lunacy. And so he went with it. But it has felt jarring at times. And there have been moments, particularly I think when you have a family, and, I'm fortunate that I have, again, a supportive husband and, all of those things. But it did create, a situation again where there was a pause, certainly in terms of my salary. And we really, you have to have a leap of faith and believe, because there's so much at stake.
How did you, source the ingredients and all of that? Like, tell us a little bit of what you can about like the supply chain of things.
I wanted to make sure that we were being really authentic to Ayurveda, but it was also meeting that belief system that I had around clinical efficacy. And what I did was I hired a formulation chemist from GlaxoSmithKline. He was a former GSK chemist, and I had gotten through my pharma connections in contact with him. We started at the lab bench. I literally rented space in a lab, and it was like tinkering and all of those things. Certainly not how most people approach cosmetics, because now I've learned you can go to a cosmetic chemist and you can often work with labs who will help you with launch and stuff. But I took kind of a more pure science approach. And so we worked with these 2 Ayurvedic doctors who informed the formulation. So we kind of reversed engineered. So for example, with our creme riche, which is our bestseller, I wanted something that would be nourishing, as you can imagine, but would be like, I hate the word anti-aging, but I can't think sometimes of a better one. Like that would have those anti-aging properties, that would, if your skin is dry, red, sensitive, prone to eczema, that was kind of like your La Mer in a way, like kind of your go-to. This is like, your desert island product. And so I talked to them about everything that I wanted it to be able to do. And then they came back and said, okay, these are the ingredients. So you need triphala. It's considered the most antioxidant rich fruit in the world. So really good for your skin. We talked about another ingredient, which is brahmi. In the Vedic text, actually is considered a plant that they actually quote for being age defying. So the actual text quote this particular ingredient, which is wild. And I remember when the Ayurvedic doctor said, okay, this is what you should use, I was like, why do I know this? Because the scientific name for it is Centella asiatica. And
Oh my
I was
gosh.
sitting beside the chemist and I was like, why do I know this? And he said, you know this from pharma because in over-the-counter creams, you often see the same ingredient added because it helps with a scar cream. So from a formulation perspective, we really started with the authenticity piece in mind. And then the chemist kind of builds what I called like the house around it so that it, looks great and can sit on a shelf and isn't like your traditional Ayurvedic preparation where you get it from the Ayurvedic doctor and you go home and you use it and you come back in 3 days. And so
Right, right.
we developed around that. And then as we source, we had to source because the original formulations, we were getting all the ingredients straight from India. But then as we moved it into like labs and scale, we had to do it a little bit differently because a lot of our ingredients still come from India, but via the US because we have to have all the documentation on them. That's really the key. So a lot of our ingredients are either from India or the West Indies. We make sure that they, meet our cosmetic requirements, and then we keep going from there. So it's an exciting process. I don't consider myself a creative in a lot of ways because I'm not traditionally creative, but being able to see this from, the birth of an idea and then to actually be involved in the formulation process and see it on its end is incredible.
I wanted to know how you just had the idea. You know what? I'm going to introduce clean beauty into these luxury hotels.
That was a very good question. And so the insight from that actually came pre-pandemic. When I was in pharma, I used to travel a lot. And so I remember being in my early 20s and, I had probably done I was in the middle of the transition from probably drugstore beauty to the Sephora-esque, Ulta-esque world. And I discovered L'Occitane, I remember, because it was at a Four Seasons. And I discovered Le Labo because it was at a Fairmont. And so I quite early on had this belief system that hotels become this really unique place of discovery. Not necessarily, I mean, you do purchase from hotel, but you discover, right, when you're in room and you use a soap, you go, I wonder if I can get this somewhere else. When you use a bath soak, all of those types of things. So I always had that in the back of my mind. And then pre-pandemic, quite truthfully, Air Canada, which is a Canadian airline, had reached out to us to be part of their amenities, their first class amenities kit. And then we didn't end up moving forward because of the pandemic. But that's actually, once we went through that process, I said, okay, this is something we really need to investigate. And so I worked with an amenities partner here and, we found the right opportunity, the right type of chain, because for us, this is Marriott luxury. So it's the Ritz, as you said, the Ritz, the JW, the St. Regis, the W Hotel. So it's the right place for our audience, which I think is a global audience. One of the really cool things about our customer is that I love that we've got a beautiful South Asian customer base, but it isn't limited to that. I found that the people who are really attracted to this brand are just people who love really good beauty.
Yes.
And they can really relate to this idea. Like when I think of our brightening mask that has turmeric in it, they're already like, oh, I understand turmeric. Maybe I take it, maybe I add it to my food, maybe I supplement with it, but I know it's an anti-inflammatory. I know it has all these great properties. So it makes sense that it would be here.
Right, right. Can I tell you how proud I am that you serve as this representation as a female-owned brown founder and you're like in this ubiquitous space? It's incredible to see.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. It's someone posted the other day on social, I guess she was at the JW in Houston, and it was like the makeup wipes that were in the room. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is real. Like this is actually real.
Yeah. People are, like
people are
accessing this
getting
from
it
everywhere.
Yeah, it's wild. So it's very special. It's really it's a privilege.
In Walmart's Huluville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Are there any other pinch me moments that you have? Because, we're kind of on the outside looking in. So is there one that you're like, I'm so proud that I did this?
There's two specifically that come to mind. One is like, we just had a really cool moment of virality during the pandemic where the wellness editor from O said her favorite thing to do during the pandemic was our brightening mask.
Oh, wow.
And that, we've been really blessed with a lot of accolades, but I had never fully understood the power of O because we hadn't been in it before. And that
Yeah.
is different. And,
Oh,
you know,
Midas touch.
yeah, it really is. It really is. It's like, people often say, like, what did you do during the pandemic? And I was like, I tried to keep a brightening mask in stock. I feel like that defined my pandemic season. So that was a great moment where it was just like, wow, I can't believe that happened. And then I think the other kind of more unique one, Toronto is Hollywood North. I'm based in Toronto. And a lot of really cool shows film here and movies and all that kind of stuff. So we've been on set at Schitt's Creek and Ginny and Georgia and Star Trek Discovery and just like really cool places. And one of the
Wow.
makeup artists from The Handmaid's Tale reached out to us and said, we'd love to use the product on set. And we were like, of course. And, so we sent over some product. I had watched it. So I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. I'll send product. And then one of the leads, her name is Yvonne Strahovski, just a gorgeous, incredible actress. One of her team members reaches out and says, could she have more product? She's willing to buy it or something crazy like that, where I'm like, oh my God, like it would just be an honor for her to use it.
Yeah.
We send out the product. Fast forward in time this past summer. So summer 2023, we're embarking on our first ever equity raise. And her team reaches out and says, she still thinks about your product. We don't really know what this means. And we know it's an indie brand. And, it's not like they're reaching out to Estee Lauder, but they said she really believes in the product. She'd love to get involved in some way. And so I
Wow.
took what felt like for me a really bold step. And I wrote back and said, well, I'm raising. Would she want to invest? And so they were like, oh,
Of
let's
course.
take that back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a one-on-one with her and she invested.
Wow. Wow. I mean, and the proof is in the pudding. I feel like if someone uses the product, swears by it, they are the ones who are going to vouch for it the best. I want to talk about your hero products. I have them here. You sent me a care package. This is the brightening mask.
That is the brightening mask. Yes, I bought it here too. Have you tried it yet?
Yeah, no, I have not. I have not. I'm so excited too, though. I
Yes,
wanted
you're
to
gonna
wait till after this
it.
interview.
Oh yeah. No, it'll be perfect because then you'll be able to like contextually as you use it, you'll be like, oh, I have
Yes.
a story. So yeah, this
Yes,
is the
yes.
brightening mask. It yes, it comes like if there's no doubt in this orange box because it's
Oh,
brightening, but this is
love
the
it.
one I was telling you that went viral during the pandemic. It's inspired from the haldi ceremony, which is like the Indian pre-wedding ceremony, which
Oh,
I'm South Indian from, Catholic. And so I actually didn't have a ceremony like this, but I'm just as inspired. And it's,
yeah,
very customary for India and I think really speaks to our beauty rituals, but it's
totally.
also based on the Ayurvedic recipe for hyperpigmentation. And
Yes.
so it's something I struggle with. Like I have quite a bit of pigmentation. My daughter actually makes fun of me because I got like a big zit like right before the holidays and it was like almost like, so big it was almost blocking my vision. And now it's like settled in to be a scar. And so for me, anytime if I ever get acne, it just becomes a scar. And so
Right.
any like hyperpigmentation, melasma, or somebody's skin is like dull, they just want to brighten, exfoliate, kind of keep their skin feeling good. This is the recipe. So it's turmeric, it's holy basil, which is called tulsi also. And then it's the fruit acids of lemon, orange, and bilberry. So very like, again, traditional recipe, but housed in a very modern way. So it's in a French clay. It's a gorgeous mask.
Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to try. And I mean, I think it's just the nostalgia that I'm gonna look forward to because I did have a haldi ceremony for my wedding and I just knew, yeah, how rooted in ritual that it
Yes.
is. And yeah, and it works. And when it's an ancient practice, there's no denying
Yes.
how meaningful
It is.
it is.
And it's interesting. I had a conversation with a dermatologist the other day and she's a clinician and she, very, very high science. And she said to me, as a physician, I have to acknowledge that there's something in time tested. Like if people have been doing something for 5,000 years and they see the results, as clinicians, we have to be able to acknowledge that.
Exactly. Exactly. Especially when there's no side effects,
Yes.
especially when your 2-year-old can go to town and smear it all over their face. It's totally fine.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Although I don't give her the mask because it is a little
Yeah.
expensive, but
Yeah, exactly.
but my kids like have used the skincare. They share it. My nieces use the cleansing oil, which is like one of our best
Oh,
sellers to, their dance makeup off. It's pretty wild.
Oh, that's so, so wonderful.
Yeah.
And tell us about some of the other hero products.
Yeah. So I mentioned the cleansing oil, so I can go there, and luckily I'm at the
Mhm.
office, so I can show you everything. But this is
Yeah.
one of our best sellers. We call it's our essential cleansing oil. It's amazing on everyone. I actually didn't start cleansing with oil until we were looking into a product like this, because my first experience cleansing with oils wasn't as enjoyable because oils sometimes they're beady and they don't come off your face. And so
Right.
this is opposite. And one interesting like nerdy science fact is you need a cleansing oil or balm to take off SPF. Actually, like water-based cleansers, gel cleansers,
Mm.
none of those have the ability to remove waterproof SPF. And so, assuming we're all wearing SPF every day, the cleansing oil is going to remove your makeup, it's going to remove everything, and it leaves your skin really nice and hydrated and smooth. And it has an ingredient in it called moringa, which you're probably
Mm.
familiar with. Moringa has like 90 plus micronutrients, and it's potent antioxidant, but interestingly, it's been proven to also be an anti-pollutant. So in developing countries, they put moringa seeds into water and it actually helps to pull the toxins out of the water. And
Wow.
so when moringa is used in cleansing or in toning or any of those type of removal functions, it can actually pull pollution out of your skin. So for the non-makeup wearer, for the person who's like, I don't wear makeup, I don't need to cleanse. Like, first of all, you do need to cleanse, and that will
Mhm.
take it off for you, which is amazing.
I love that. I have like a question that's a total aside, but I
Yeah.
want to know because I trust your judgment on it. What foundation, powder, blush, like, do you swear by? Not only for like our skin tone, but I feel like one that, complements, and we use this cleanser and mask to keep our skin supple after that. But like, yeah, what's that for you?
I have been using MAC since I was, I don't know, 19. And
It's a cult
it's
classic.
called Brown Girl. Like if,
Yeah,
thick, because no one can quite do the shades like MAC does.
true.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting because I was in New York last week and I twice went into a beauty store and asked them to color match me because my goal is to be clean on everything.
Right.
So everything else. So like for bronzers and blushes, I use Kosas, if you know that brand. They have beautiful colors. I just bought the Mango People, if you know that brand. It's also South
No,
Asian founded. It's also South
love
Asian
it.
founded. I wanted to try it. She has these multi-sticks that can be both lip and blush. And so the color that I bought was cherry and one called gulabi.
Oh, cute.
Um, yeah, it's really cute. And so I bought those, but I lean into Kosas. I lean into one of the number one mascara brands that's clean. It's called Talk Mascara, TOK. So I
Mhm.
use that, or I use the Ilia one. Like Ilia has some
Mhm.
great colors.
Yeah.
Kosas has some great colors. But when it comes to foundation, like I'm a darker complexion and I find it's really hard to color match me. The
Yes.
closest that I found is Kosas. And so I highly recommend for someone of color to try there. And I understand, although I haven't done it, that Fenty would have all the shades.
True.
But I tend away from like the heavier foundation. And so that's why I haven't gone there. But
Yeah.
I think it's really hard. I talked to a beauty editor who happened to be South Asian once, and she was like, I want to do a piece on why the South Asian girl just can't give up her MAC. And I said, I
I
think it's because
know.
it was the first brand to give us every single, like my sister has her own shade, my mom, they're fairer than I am, I guess, if you will. And so like we each have our own shade, whereas in most brands, there just isn't that nuance.
Yeah, exactly. No, and then you want the coverage, I feel like yeah, especially in midlife. So like that brings me to that whole point is what should we be doing as women who are, we're in our 40s and we still want to look 25, and we do, I feel. I mean, I think so many of us are embracing, I hate calling it aging, but it's a living, and making sure to accentuate our assets. So yeah, what is your like tips for this demo of ours?
So my personal 2024 goal is to fix my sleep. From an Ayurvedic perspective, sleep is considered the mother goddess because of her ability to like renew and restore. But if you think about the source of like skincare issues, if you feel like your skin again is like just looking dull, if you feel like you're looking tired, sleep is the first thing to get you there. Sleep is like,
Sure.
I kind of now in my 40s, I'm in my later 40s, so I consider now like both my skincare and my healthcare to also be about longevity and quality of
Yes.
life.
Mm.
And so I feel like those are the things that I'm thinking about right now, which is like, how do I, get myself to live as long as I can, but with the best quality of life? And all the research, everything starts with like good sleep and good gut health. Anytime your gut is off, it'll show itself on your skin, whether that be through
100%.
acne, dryness, through inflammation, through anything. One of the things I love about Ayurveda is when I started this brand, I remember thinking, gosh, does the world need another skincare brand or a beauty brand? And I read this thing that said that in Ayurveda, taking care of one's beauty is not actually superficial. It's
Mm.
it's it's actually a requirement. It's
Yeah.
actually something we should be doing because our skin, our bodies are the house of the soul.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you think of traditional Indian culture, right? Like we adorn statues with flowers and garlands and we put incense and we do all of those things. Even again, I'm Catholic as a South Indian, and I remember having one of my friends come over and he was like, you do Catholicism like you're Hindu. And I was like, what are you talking about? 'Cause and it was like your parents' house is all like flowers and incense and coconuts and like, um,
So sweet.
yeah, it was really funny. But we do this whole act of adorning, that in which we love, that in which we pray, that in which we believe. And so why wouldn't we do it to ourselves?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I completely wholeheartedly agree. And I think it should be not only pragmatic, but the fact that so many things that we grew up with are a sensual experience is amazing. Like taking, the staple ingredient, turmeric, haldi,
Yeah.
it's something that is an anti-inflammatory, so scientifically proven, but you can smell the fragrance, you can
Yeah.
ingest it for your gut health, you can put it on a zit for,
Yes.
on your skin. So it's like these are just very multifaceted solutions that are from nature. It's
Yes.
beyond, yeah,
And like other cultures too, but we have the fortune of, having turmeric in our food, and
yeah,
so it's interesting. Like I feel this way even with my kids because we don't have as much Indian food as I did growing up.
right.
That part of me nurturing their health is to bring these ingredients back into their lives.
Yes. And tell us a bit about, your motherhood journey. How has, becoming a parent changed you, changed your purpose and perspective in this world?
I think it informs everything. It's very hard to be an entrepreneur. It's amazing and it's rewarding, and it's like if you're, type A or achievement oriented, or you have passion and a mission, it's incredible. But it can also be stressful, and it can beat you down, and it can take you on a roller coaster that is hard. But when you have a family, there's like different sides to that. So what I find for me is that like I've had moments where one, I feel bad because I might be like snuggling with my son, but I know my mind is like, oh my gosh, this fell apart today, or this is challenging, or whatever it is. But also it gives me an opportunity to ground myself into what's really important as well. And I think having that has been incredible. I've often, I've met a lot of founders who don't have kids, and there's been moments where I've been like, wow, that must be amazing. They can just work all the time.
Right.
And I'm sure they don't. And I'm sure they do other amazing things. It's just like the grass is always greener. But I think my journey of motherhood has sort of taught me that a few things. One, that this is a very important part. Like entrepreneurship is a very important part of who I am, but it isn't all of me. And I often say to myself, like at the end of my life, who they become in so many ways will feel like the marker of my legacy, right? And so
Yes.
being able to like it's a privilege to watch them grow and learn and change. And it's frightening and it's amazing, all of those things at the same time. And so I don't know. I think it was like President Obama said something like having children is like having your heart live outside your body.
Yeah,
That is exactly it.
it's true. It's so true. I mean, I feel for me, it's given me this greater purpose in life. And it's interesting how like we both can relate to this, but it was our motherhood journey that catalyzed what we're doing now.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
you saw, you know, your daughter with the cream and you were like, okay, I need to get in this space and fix it. And for me as well, I had twins and my younger child all within 18 months.
Oh my
And
God.
I was, I know I was scrambling, but
Yeah.
I remember when I was nursing or pumping in the middle of the night, I listened to podcasts and that was the impetus for the show. I just thought, I need to get in this space. And you know, coming from my broadcast career, I was like, I need to make it more newsy and palpable for the listener. And so it's like why we do what we do now is because we're parents.
I know. And it does. It gives you a completely different perspective, like how I approach our customer base, how
Right.
we engage with them, the respect. Yeah, it you don't realize because it's so much a part of who you are that it informs all of your day-to-day interactions.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you have a mom sense moment that you can pinpoint and, you know, that's your built-in sixth sense that we rely on and sometimes, you know, second guess, but we're like, no, 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 you know, that inner voice, it knows what's up that you can share, like helped you.
I'm going to give the example of last week I was in New York and so I always touch base every day. I kind of, my kids are now a little bit older, right? And so I feel like once your kids hit like 11, 12, 13, they become these like really cool human beings. But now what they need from you is like different from like you're bathing them and you're changing diapers and you're doing all these things. They need like real life stuff from you. And so my daughter is now a teen. Like I make it a point every day, even if I'm away, of like checking in, but like meaningfully being like, how was the day? What did you need?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like probably the biggest thing that I recognize now that my dad did with me, my dad particularly, because my dad was the driver in the house. And so he would take me to all my lessons, like piano lessons and dance lessons. I kind of did everything. I ended up just like opening up because we were always in the car together.
Wow.
And so I would tell him all sorts of stuff. And we were very, very close as a result. And so I've kind of leaned into that with my own kids, which is like, it's hard when you're a busy parent to be there for everything. And sometimes you miss things. Sometimes you have to travel. But I think I guess my spidey sense is always like, they need me as that check-in. They need me as that ability to just like open. And so my thing is like, I think I go through those every day, but it's for me, it's like I'm very meaningfully, it sounds like it's, I hope they don't hear this and think it's contrived because it really isn't, but it's like,
Yeah.
no, but I very meaningfully am like, hey, like I love driving them places. Or if I'm away, I'll like intentionally speak to them separately so that I can be like, what happened today? Because if there's something that needs to come out, it will. And I
Right.
think kids are going through so much and so many different things than we ever went through, right? Because they have social media and they're growing up in an incredibly inclusive world that we didn't have, but that also creates a lot of questions. But
Sure.
also they're going through like just all these things because everything's so open to them, right? Like,
Yeah.
they have TikTok and they are Snapchatting and all the things that they're doing that we just never experienced. And I can feel when my kids need that touch point. And what I think is
Yes.
amazing is that they will, even if they don't use those words, they'll tell me. They'll tell me in their own way. Or like I
Yes.
laughed last week when I was away. My son doesn't have a phone, but he has access to an iPad. And I looked at my phone when I was out for dinner, and it was just all these little gifts saying, "Call me, call me, call me, call me." And so I called, and I was like, "Is everything okay?" And it was just like he was like, "No, I just needed to hear you."
Oh, wow. Oh my God. I can't wait for that phase.
Oh my God, it's
Oh,
the best.
yes. I
Yes.
can't wait. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That's really special. Is there a quote or a mantra that you live by?
So there's a few. I really focus on kindness, and I know we talk about kindness, but I often say to my kids, like, kindness is the new cool, because to me, that's the world I want to create. That's the business I want to create.
Mm,
That, if it takes a little bit longer, but we can be kinder, whether it's to a customer, whether it takes a little bit longer, or like, I try, a lot of people have been very supportive of me on my journey. So I do try and do the same things back. Like, I think being able to meaningfully weave kindness. So kindness is something that I follow in general. Something that I've been saying since I was probably in university that my dad, you're going to hear a lot about my dad, but my dad taught me is something I say often, which is like every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. And to me, it has so much meaning because if I'm ever nervous, I find I'm like saying it over and over again in my head. Like if it's something big is coming or there's no expectation of perfection, only the expectation of growth.
Yes. Yes. And we are constantly evolving and, learning those lessons. And yeah, I'm going to say that to myself too. That's really beautiful.
It's really powerful.
And where can my audience find you and Sahajan?
Oh, thank you. So Sahajan.com for sure. So it's SAHAJAN.com. If you're in the US, you can find us at clean beauty stores like Credo Beauty, at the Detox Market. Canada, we're at a department store called The Bay. And we have a couple of new exciting announcements to come. But yeah, lots of great places to find us.
That's wonderful. And all the hotels.
And all the hotels. That's true. I should have said that.
Yeah.
Like it's funny with the hotels. It's like we actually created some things just for them. Yeah, it's been kind of cool. Like I went into this to create a beauty business, but the largest part of our business is digital first. And so it's wild because someone reached out to me the other day for a tech grant. And I was like, I don't have a tech business. And they were like, no, actually you do. You run a large digital business. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I do.
Yes. And how can my listeners, many of them are with VCs and are investors, how can we support?
How you can support any entrepreneur, I mean, I think is a number of things. I think one is obviously purchasing the product because you're a woman-found business, when you're, a BIPOC founded business, when you're an indie brand. We did just have our first equity raise, but we're still, in that indie phase. I think every single purchase helps because it creates the momentum that grows the brand. I think this is something I try and do is like, I work really hard. Like over the holidays, I shop from other founders because I think it's incredibly important. The next thing I think is like raising your name in rooms where you're not, is providing advocacy. If some of the greatest opportunities I've had is because someone has advocated for me. It's sometimes in ways that I don't expect. It's going to sound really funny. My brother-in-law texted me, I'm in all these QuickBooks commercials now. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Skipping through our warehouse and all this stuff. But it happened to be like, it was like a random, like our bookkeepers were at the QuickBook conference and they happened to be using our Lip Karma. And then someone from QuickBooks was like, oh, what's that? And she shared about we were one of our clients. Fast forward in time, QuickBooks reached out to her and said, oh, we're doing a profile on different businesses. She connects me and all of a sudden, we're getting brand recognition, but not, because QuickBooks has decided to feature us as a partner. And so I think, I think creating opportunity for whether it's for me or for other businesses like me, I think is really, really important. I think, but not for the swell of support and the growth of other South Asian founders, other South Asian creators, the general momentum around women founders and BIPOC founders. I forget what that saying is, but like all tides lift all sails. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. The rising tide lifts all boats.
The rising tides, yes. And so, but not for all of us being here. I don't know that we could rise the way that we have. I think by supporting, by advocating for, and just by being here, we all support each other.
Oh, I love it. 100%. And just congrats on this raise and here's to continued success. Just so proud of you, Lisa. And I'm so glad that we had this intimate chat where my audience gets to hear your story firsthand.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to my intimate conversation with Lisa Mattam of Sahajan Skincare. And I want to share what it means. She explained this to me. Sahajan is derived from the word Sahaj, which is intuition. And so it's the science of intuition is what inspired this brand. And here she has an affirmation card that she sent me along with all the goodies. And it says, an affirmation to inspire. I must be a mermaid. I have no fear of depths and a great fear of shallow living. I can't tell you how fitting that is. So thank you, Lisa, and to the A-Game PR team, led by Anita Chatterjee, who's a dear friend, for setting all of this up. This was a wonderful interview. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, subscribe to That Total Mom Sense wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Thank you all for being part of my tribe. Always trust your mom sense and dad sense. Stay strong, super parents. I'll see you soon.